Hang on. Let me just get rid of this moving on TV in the background. There we go. Jamie, welcome to Moving on TV. How are you?
Good, Lauren. Yeah, you?
Yes, I'm very good. I'm very good. There's a bit of an echo going on. That's a shame. Why is there an echo?
Okay. I'm not hearing an echo on my side. Sorry.
Okay. It's really good to see you again. I've got here, look, Jamie V. Turek, author of The Freelance Formula and the website The Activist Toolbox. Then I've got here Seekers Trust Retreats. Remember that one?
That's going a while, isn't
it? Going back to 2012. Freedom fight, brave, courageous, beautiful freedom fighter, cacao ceremony holder, light worker, starseed and butterfly protector.
Where's the butterfly protector from?
Come on, surely you remember the first time we met. Shall I remind you? Okay. A lot of water under the bridge. I'm not sure whether to put this. I'm going to put this on two different shows. You're going to go on the book show and you're going to go on Messengers of Light.
Cool. Bring it on.
So I'm going to dig deep. Okay, but let me remind you, 2012, Buck's Spiritual Friends. Oh, come on, you must remember. Buck's Spiritual Friends, the group I used to run.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
Do you remember? You turned up with a butterfly.
Did I really?
Oh, come on.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah, of course.
You had this little butterfly. You sat with the butterfly continuously all through the meditations and you took care of it. You don't remember?
I do, yeah. Bless it.
That was the first time I ever met you. There was me and Helen Greenway, and Martin, and I don't remember who else was there, but you made an impression. You made an impression. Walking in with a butterfly, that was a big impression. And from that moment on, it was like, wow, Jamie's here. Just a beautiful aura, beautiful presence. And we kind of became friends. And then you came to the Seekers Trust when we did the angel retreats.
Yeah,
remember that? With your friend Jamie, the other Jamie. And that was an amazing retreat. That was beautiful. And then I didn't hear from you. Then you went to live in Ibiza. It was and you were always asking me to come and visit, and I never got to visit you. And then I'm just going through the chronological order of the times that we met up. And then you did your cacao ceremony. Where was that again? I can't remember the time.
That was in Swindon.
Swindon, that was it. And it was the year before the madness, when we were still living in relative normality, whatever. And you did this amazing cacao ceremony, and that was the first time I'd seen you since the retreats, I think, which must have been about 6 or 7, maybe 7 years, 8 years.
Yeah.
Retreat. And you did this brilliant cacao ceremony. And then last year, I went to Trafalgar Square to one of our marches, one of our things. I was standing there filming, and there you were. Right over there, filming beside me, and it was you. Oh my God!
Right under David Icke's nose, wasn't it?
Pardon?
We were right under David Icke's nose.
Yes, we were. The man we're probably not allowed to say his name on here. It's so crazy. So what I'm going to do is I've got to say to you, there's very little we can say on the toolbox. You can say what you want about the book, but when it comes to the activist toolbox, we're being watched continuously. So you have to be very careful what you say. But let's go back a bit. let's go back to Jamie that walked in with the butterfly. That innocent, very sweet, very smiley young person that walked in. Um, how did that all start? I mean, where did this all come from? How did you wake up?
Well, I mean, I've always sort of been spiritual because of my mum. Um, but waking up to what's going on in the world was what really blew my mind open. I watched a 2.5 hour long documentary that connected all of the dots, and I'll try and use my words very carefully, not to not to bring up anything. But it told you about everything that's going on, who's behind it, connected all of the dots, spoke of their motives, how they're doing it, and once you'd seen that, it's impossible not to see it in real life. Wherever you go, it's there in your face. You can't unsee it. It's like it's like the film They Live. Once you've seen it, you can't take the damn glasses off, can you?
No. Can I just go back even further with you?
Mm.
What I mean is, when did you wake up to the spirituality? I mean, not it's unusual for someone, especially a young man, to walk in protecting a butterfly and to sit there and to give it so much attention and love. It's unusual. So, so why, how, what? How old were you when you first realized that you were a star seed or a light worker, or there was something a bit different about you, Jamie?
That's kind of always been me, really. And I thank my mum for that. My mum reads all the spiritual magazines, and she's always been into that sort of stuff. So it's kind of always been a part of my life. And my mum's very sweet, and I spent a lot of my childhood not hanging around with my friends, but actually hanging out with my mum. She'd take me out into nature. We'd go on really long bike rides together, and so yeah, we'd climb trees, and I was always into nature and animals, butterflies, birds, whatever. So yeah, it's kind of always been me a little bit, really. I only cracked open properly after like the awakening I was just talking about, because once you get open to that stuff, then the spiritual stuff creeps in as well, because then you realize actually, it's the real battle we have is the battle on consciousness, and when you realize that, I started digging deep into that stuff as well, and that's when I started realizing I had a really deep connection with the Pleiades. And that expanded in Ibiza when I decided to participate in a channeling course with Solara and Ra, and I learned to channel the Pleiades, and that's when things really sort of blew open. And that was probably 2015. So that's when the real journey happened, though.
2015. Okay, so we're looking about 6 years, right? Okay. I agree with you totally. When all of this started, all the lockdowns, it was like it was in my face exactly why I'm here. I just knew. I knew that I had to run Moving on TV, and that was it. And suddenly all the pieces came together, and I realized what I really am and why I went through the life I went through without going into what's going on too much in the world. As you know, I grew up in Israel. I'm now grateful for that because I'm able to see everything. I'm able to watch everything. I'm able to put across different points of views and stuff like that. And I know why I had to grow up in an atmosphere like that. So it's this massive awakening where all of us, the 144,000 of us, we have got our jobs and we know what we're doing. So, okay. So talk a little bit. We'll go on to, okay, so your awakening was through your mum. You were kind of like Maria from The Sound of Music, loving climbing trees and jumping around all over the place, like what a free spirit that you are. And you talk a little bit about your meditations with the Palladians, because that's very, very fascinating. So, do you want to say a little bit more about that?
Yeah, that was a cool journey, actually. And it was a bit strange because when I was a kid, I always had this real obsession with that tiny little cluster of stars in the sky. And I'd always see them really faint. Every time I saw them, I was like, oh, cute, there's that little cluster of stars again. And I never knew what my fascination was. I had no idea why. And then later on in life, as I was going through this all my research in the awakening and what's going on in the world, I had spent a day on YouTube just listening to music, nothing but music for maybe 3 or 4 hours. So all of the recommended track videos were nothing but other music videos, absolutely nothing other than music. And then suddenly this other recommendation popped up that was really out of place, and it said a message from the Pleiades. And I'd never heard of the Pleiades before. So I just felt really, really compelled to watch this video. And then it started off talking about, oh, there's a reason why you never used to fit in with other people at school. There's a reason you have spent your life wondering why people don't see the world the way you do. And I was like, okay, go on then. And it said basically it's because your being isn't really from this planet. You're used to incarnating on you've come here on a mission to help raise the vibration of the planet, and you do so just by being here. You don't actually have to take any action. You do this just by being here, although you probably want to take some action. I was like, right, okay. I mean, I was a little bit skeptical, I was like, okay, this is a bit random. And then they said there are other beings from other planets also as allies to humans on our awakening journey, and that there are many beings sat on the edges of their seats right now watching what's unfolding on planet Earth. So I said, okay, all right, fine. If you're there, then if you're watching, show me, prove it to me. And honestly, I shit you not, Lauren, I literally came up in goosebumps, and I had this incredible rush through me for about 20 seconds, and I sort of sat there like, oh, there's no way I could have induced that myself. I was like, right, okay, then that's interesting. So then I started studying the Pleiades and what that was all about. And then I think it was probably a year or two later, I was at my sister's house, and my brother-in-law had built an observatory in the garden, which was like a metal shed with a sliding back roof and a telescope. And I was there one day, and he had no idea about my connection with the Pleiades and stuff. They're not really into this sort of stuff. But we had a really clear night. He said, oh, great, clear night tonight. We might be able to see the Pleiades. I said, which one's the Pleiades, Robert? And he said, oh, it's that tiny little cluster of stars up there. And of course I was like, you've got to be kidding me, no way. So I was like, suddenly everything makes sense now, no wonder I was obsessed with that little star cluster as a kid. And that for me was absolute confirmation that this stuff isn't just a load of bollocks, there's something really real going on here. And then, I went traveling when in 2014, I just got really sick of this country and working for other people and stuff. So I just sold all my stuff and decided to go. Ended up in the most cosmic place ever, Ibiza, very contrary to the stereotype it's known for. It's an extremely cosmic place, one of the most spiritual places on the planet, I would say. And I met this wonderful woman called Solara, and she was doing a channel, 333 euros. And if I see 333, I kind of feel quite compelled to follow it. That's my magic number. And she was doing this channeling course where she channeled the no, I have to be here. And within the 3 days of being there, I had a new family of spiritual family, and then a new girlfriend, a place to live, and I was channeling the Pleiades, and I was suddenly at home, more at home than I've ever been in my life. So then, that was kind of my journey with the Pleiades. And I still channel them to this day, when pretty regularly, and they tell me some pretty cool stuff. They've kept me going. I don't think we have anything to worry about, put it that way, but what they're saying, it sounds
That's what I was going to ask you. Sorry, that's what I was going to ask you is, can you give us some positive stuff? I mean, I'm getting a lot of positive stuff that everything's going to be okay. We've got one massive storm to go through, and then it's going to, we're going to be okay. But can you give us some positive stuff? Because I know a lot of people out there, there's so much depression and people are scared and confused. But go on then, give us some great stuff.
One of the common themes is that never existence is emerging of some sorts. I don't know what that looks like. I haven't asked. Maybe I should ask. But there's a speak of like a new earth, a new plane of existence, and you know, those who are working for the light, we are part of it. And this seems to tie up with things that the Bible's about, the end times and stuff like this. You know, about a new plane of existence. So yeah, that's pretty exciting, and I think we're going to be okay. I think a lot of bad things are going to happen. If you're in the light, you're going to be okay. If you're living in love, if you believe in the universe or of a higher power or whatever label you want to give that, you know, then okay. But it does seem, I'm getting the impression aren't going to be, if honest. You know, one of the message that I channeled on New Year's Eve was that was specifically, that's going to be a really tough thing for us, but it's going to be okay, basically.
I totally agree with you. We are in a massive awakening, and this is all about people taking responsibility for their bodies and their minds and everything. And those who can will be okay, and those who can't, I have my own feelings about that, but I don't want to go into it too much. But this is, you know, you can use this time to either completely go under, or you can use it in order to wake up and to do what you love. And to me, the gift that I've got here is I can get up every day and say to myself, Lauren, what do you want to do? Regardless of how many people or how many subscribers I've got, what do you do today? Oh, I want to pick up a mic and sing all day. And that's what I do.
Yeah,
I come on here and I'm doing a shine meditation for everyone because of the fact, you know, the weather. And in order to teach people that you don't really need the sun, you can recreate the sun yourself. You can do that. Your mind can do whatever you want. So you said we are here to spread love, to spread light, and that's it. And it's this incredible knowledge now. You know that you're here for a reason. I struggled my whole life. Anyway, coming back to it's your story. You're the messenger of light on here. So very exciting. Now, what you've done is your activist toolbox, which sounds very, very intriguing. And I looked at it a little bit. It looks like a website to help you negotiate different things that are going on, how to deal with them, you know, how to negotiate the awakening and the ascension, but also very practical stuff, which of course we can't talk about on here because of the way we're living at the moment. And hopefully by this time next year, things will be different. Please God. Or please, whatever. Please God, please love. God is love to me. So talk a little bit, as much as you can, about this activist toolbox. We'll start with that. What is it? How can people access it? How is it? How did it come to be? Where did it come from? How do you feel? Why did you feel that you needed to create an activist toolbox?
Yeah, I mean, it came from maybe back around the 2012 times. I was doing a lot of sort of protesting and stuff like that, and I was very heavily involved in the activist world. And I found a lot of people were struggling on how to put their message across and try and wake people up. It's very difficult to wake people up and get them to listen to you, and we can often sound very crazy. We can sound like we're chucking out bold statements about what's going on, and for a lot of people, those bold statements can be very difficult to grasp. They can be very difficult to believe because it challenges their perception of reality. It challenges their perception of safety. So, firstly, I wanted to create a place that would help really or inspire activists with some really interesting ways and effective ways that they can use their language wisely. They can choose their questions wisely. That will help people effectively wake up their friends and family. And also, I wanted to provide activists with some other tools on their journey on trying to wake other people. And that was even just selling stickers. It started off as a really basic idea, and over about 8 years, it expanded. And only now is it really being launched and birthed. The universe has been, and my guides have been, this is something you just be patient with. It's going to come at the right time, and now it's about to get birthed. So you'll see, if you go to activiststoolbox.com, the website doesn't actually have content yet. It's there, but it still doesn't have the content. But that's for the next sort of 2-3 weeks. That's going to be a big focus. And now the universe, they weren't wrong. My guides weren't wrong. Your team will come at the right time, and suddenly I'll be meeting all these people who want to get involved. They'll help out. So over the next few weeks is where we're going to be building it with building content. So it's actually activiststoolbox.com with an S after activist.
Okay, sorry. You can actually see what I'm putting on there. Good.
Yeah, but it's cool.
The spelling is rubbish. Sorry, activists.
So the first bit is there's going to be a few different phases. Firstly, we've got the training camp, the activist training camp online, which is, it runs through everything really. So it talks about firstly how to wake up your family, wake up your friends, how to ask the right questions, how to make people think for themselves. So one thing I've discovered, and after speaking to a few other people, is that people don't tend to change their mind unless they come to the conclusion themselves. And for that to happen, people need to think. So how do we get someone to think? Well, we have to ask them questions. So now it's
Sorry, Jamie, what's your favorite color?
purple.
Okay, so I'll do purple. Keep going.
So if we can ask people the right questions that make them, perhaps pointing out some of the inconsistencies in an official narrative, to make people start going, yeah, maybe something is a bit fishy here. And asking the right questions that make people think for themselves help them to then come to their own conclusion without shoving things down their throat and stop us from looking like absolute nutcases. We just help someone else see what we see really gently. So we've got that, and there's a first section is about being a successful activist. So to wake people up, we've got how to organize and orchestrate things like demonstrations, protests, petitions, etc. And then there's how to come from a place of being empowered. So I noticed a lot of activists, they're quite angry. I was quite an angry little activist one day, and it's a very nice release. It's great to go shouting at people. It's a nice release of anger personally. It feels good, but it's not very effective. If anything, it's very counterproductive. So I want to help inspire activists to come from a place of being empowered, not from a place of wounded little child that just needs to shout at everyone and release some steam. And when we can come from that place of being empowered, it's so much more effective, and it's so much more unifying, because we need to realize that the people who aren't awake yet, they're not separate from us. They have just been brainwashed. We've been quite lucky really that we're able to see what we see. It's a lot of the people can't, so we judge them, we call them sheep. I've been guilty of it too, but we have to realize they're just victims of the programming. So if we can understand that and come from a place of being more empowered, then it's much more unifying, and people find it much easier to relate to us. Off the top of my head, I think the next section is all about walking your talk, really. So I remember going back on protests back in the day, and we would be protesting against big corporations, corporate takeover. At the end of it, some of the guys would, hey, yeah, great day, guys. Let's go to McDonald's. And I'd just be like, are you serious? Like, are you, come on, guys. So I think the key thing that we have to focus on is, like Gandhi says, be the change you want to see. Every pound we spend is a voting slip, right, for what we want in the world. So if we want to see change in the world, we have to walk our talk. So in that section, I want to help people walk their talk. So I'm going to have two sections that will dominate that part, which will be, one, a list of ethical companies that I want to promote. So it gives people some more ethical options that they can integrate into daily purchases. And then there will also be what will be called the shit list. Because how many people don't know that brands like L'Oreal test on animals? And I think if they knew that, they probably wouldn't buy L'Oreal anymore. Or how many people don't know that the CEO of Nestle said that that water shouldn't be a human right? He's an absolute lunatic. They're absolutely insane. And I think if more people knew about what was going on with a lot of these corporations, these companies, they wouldn't want to put money that way anymore. So a big part of Activist Toolbox is going to be about encouraging people to walk their talk and use these ethical companies that I list over people like anything from Johnson & Johnson or Nestle or Coca-Cola or any of these horrible corporations that are destroying our planet and destroying our health and brainwashing our children. So yeah, there's going to be a big part is about walking our talk. And then we're going to have the spiritual toolbox. That's actually going to be a separate website that's going to sit side by side with Activist Toolbox. And what I really want Activist Toolbox to do is not just empower activists, but also be a bridge between activism and spirituality, because I think ultimately they go hand in hand. I don't want it to be wishy-washy. I don't want it to be fluffy or anything like that. I just want some really really grounded tools that people can use and integrate into their life to empower themselves,
Yeah, I agree. Right, just bringing myself back.
Yeah, man.
I agree. It's all about balance. You know, what you said is completely true. You get the freedom fighters that can be very angry and try to put a message across in a very aggressive, angry way. Then you can get the light workers that say, no, we just need to sit there and meditate and everything's going to be fine. No, you have to find the balance between both. And that sounds like that's what you're doing. You're providing the information and the guidance in order to create a healthy activist, somebody where people are full of respect for what they do. They don't the word I'm looking for. They don't put anybody down for what they believe in. It's hard, Jamie. It's hard. It's very hard to watch. It's a bit like watching sometimes a mother watching a child putting their finger into a plug, electricity plug, and you can't do anything. You just got to let that child, that adult, that you can't change it. They're not children, they're adults, but you can only do your job. And an amazing woman said to me, my best friend now, she's like my sister, Jamie. She said, Lauren, you're going out there to save the whole world, but you can't. You've just got to save one person at a time by being the best you can be. That's it. And so that's what you're doing. You can't go out there and save the whole world. You've got to just do your best to be as kind and as balanced as you can be, and use that as much as you can to help people to ask the question like, how come Lauren or Jamie are so healthy? I wonder why they're so healthy. I wonder why they're so happy. I wonder why they're so balanced. Maybe I could be that way. And that's a good way. It's like learning by example. I mean, as I say, we all go through our ups and downs, but it's finding that balance. And it sounds like that's what you're trying to provide with what you're doing here, which is very, very important.
Yeah, I was quite fortunate when I was in Ibiza. The universe seemed to just guide me through some of the most incredible different spiritual tools out there. And I was doing all sorts of different therapies. And I didn't even end up paying for most of it. Most of it just seemed to happen to me. It was like I was being given these tools so I could then share them with other people. And I was doing things like huge amounts of family. I really recommend anyone to check that out, family constellation, because that's one of the most profound things I've ever done in my life.
Can you, sorry,
Here,
can you explain that? Is that when you are able to, I think I did one of those in the therapeutic community where I recovered. It's where everybody represents a person in your family and you're able to say what you really feel. Is that it?
more or less,
Is that
yeah.
what
It's an incredible thing. It really proves that we are all one consciousness. Because what happens, let's say you're in a group of 8 people, and whoever's turn it is to have their family constellation done, they would sit with the facilitator. And let's say, for example, one of the most common things I would see is like my girlfriend that I had in Ibiza, she was a family constellation facilitator. So I sat through many of these, and yeah, a common thing would be like women would be regularly manifesting abusive relationships. So basically, we inherit programming for up to 6 generations back. You know, we carry this family karma, which doesn't belong to us, but it plagues our reality, and it's not ours. But we can clean that, and family constellation, I believe, is probably the quickest way of doing it. So let's say, for example, you're a lady who's constantly manifesting abusive men as your partner. You would probably sit with the facilitator, and she would say to you, okay, can you pick someone out of the group to represent your mother? And literally the second that person agrees to represent the mother, they embody the energy of that person. It's weird, it's really creepy, and it doesn't sound very believable, but honestly, it happens, and it's very real. And I've represented many people, and you really feel their energy. It's really strange, and that doesn't matter whether they're still alive or not. You know, there's been times I've been asked to represent someone's father or something, and I could be like a really timid little man. I could just be like, oh no, I just want to hide in the corner. Or I could just come out and I want to own the energy of the space. Everyone must know I'm here. You know, you really feel it. It's incredible. So this woman might say, find someone to represent the mother and father, and they would be interacting as the mother, father in front of her. And these people perhaps have never met before, and they have no idea about the woman. But she'd be looking at these two who represent the mother and father, and they'd be like, this is insane. There's literally exactly how my mother and father would act. It's just literally creepy. And it was never wrong. And what you can do is you can observe the interaction between the two, and after a while you can start seeing patterns. So you might say, okay, cool, so obviously this guy is not very nice to your mum, and you can say to the father, how do you feel towards this woman? He might say, oh, it's just my woman, you know, she's here to cook for me, and she's here to look after the house while I go and work. You know, he's not that bothered, just a little bit emotionally detached. So okay, well, let's see where this comes from. Bring 2 people in to represent the grandparents, and then watch how they interact. And it might become apparent that the grandfather was working in the military. He was a bit of a robot man, very cold, and was abusive to his wife, the grandmother. You say, okay, well, this is obviously where this comes from. He's a military man, and you know, he doesn't really see his wife as a human. So that's when you can heal that energetically. So you could say to the granddad, okay, I need you to look into your wife's eyes and see a human there, and I want you to love that woman. I want you to apologize to her. And once he softens and he does that, then you move to the parents and you say, look, now you guys need to heal this. I need you to look into your wife's eyes and see her as a human. And once that's been healed at the place that it originates from, incredible things start happening. The whole family dynamic changes. You're released from this sort of karma, and then you can go on and start manifesting a decent man, because you no longer have that pattern that you're repeating. And not only does it work for you, but it ripples out into your whole family. And it's strange how it works. And I was very skeptical when she first told me about it. But the first session I was involved in was called Healing the Relationship with Your Father. And I had actually fallen out with my dad. He lives in the Isle of Man. And I'd fallen out with him at his wedding, and I hadn't spoken to her for about a year. So we did this session, and literally I must have been no more than 4 days. He rang me out of the blue. And I said, this is unbelievable. And when I told her, she said, well, yeah, of course he did. Crazy. So yeah, family constellation is an incredible tool. So many spiritual tools that we can use like this. You know, even just breathing techniques, like doing a holotropic breathing breathwork session. I mean, I was having experiences from that were on par with an ayahuasca ceremony. And I cried for like 45 minutes. Unbelievable, just from breathing. And, you know, if everyone realized the power of breath, that's probably one of the most empowering things for humanity, to realize that this one simple tool that we need absolutely nothing else but other than ourselves can be extremely powerful for us. You know, and that includes things like, you know, the Wim Hof method as well. And then there's working with plant medicines. This stuff is really important for us to sort of tap into, for anyone who feels like that could be on the path. You know, this is great for clearing, great finding out our power, reconnecting with our true essence, and just digging really deep within ourselves and healing, you know.
Yeah, there's so much, Jamie. I mean, I'm so grateful and excited you're saying all of this, because I don't know if you remember, if you know, because we weren't in contact, but I was diagnosed with borderline personality disorder when my mum died, and you know, instead of giving me grief counseling. But anyway, I'm very grateful that it happened, because I went into a therapeutic community for nearly 2 years, and it was all without medicine on the NHS. No one knows, no one knows, but all on the NHS. And we did similar work. And but to me, everything, all the work. I mean, I've done 10 days silent retreats. I've done a few of those. I did one Vipassana
Mm.
in Australia. That was 1 year when there was a massive war going on, as usual, in Israel between them and someone else. And I didn't know what to do. And so I thought, well, I'll go into meditation. And when I come out, hopefully it'll either be over or whatever. I've got to learn to live with it. And so I went into 10 days Vipassana. And it was so dark, you know, that all of that meditation, I had to face so much darkness because there was no communication.
Mm.
All you did was meditate from 5 a.m. till you went to bed. And I remember going to see the facilitator and saying, I can't cope with this darkness. And she told me to do yoga. I was put onto a yoga program in order to release some of this darkness. And then I did Amravati. You know, I've done 10-day retreats in Amravati near me. And there's so much. I mean, we used to have a lot more. Obviously, it was a lot easier. You could just go to a Buddhist retreat and do a 10-day meditation. Now everything's closed, but let's not go into all of that. Now you've got to be on your own. You've got to go inside and you've got to do it all on your own. But I tell you, one of the best things that I feel that was given to the human race is the 12 steps. The 12 steps of AA, which can be adapted. And before I met Martin, well, you remember Martin, we're separated now, but before I met him, I did a massive 12 steps because my relationships were going down, 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 down. And so I had no option. I did a massive step 4. And I looked at every single relationship with a man that I'd had. And there was always exactly the same pattern. Mm-hmm. Always, every single time. It was always my choice. My intuition said no. But I went, you know. And so when I did that, I took about a year out and I worked on myself. Then I met Martin. It was completely different, different vibration. Everything was different. But to me, the 12 steps, you go. First of all, you admit you're powerless over everything, which we are. Then you say there is a power greater than ourselves. And I don't believe in a religious God like you. I believe in a consciousness, in love. Love to me is everything. Unconditional love. Love is God. God is love. Like the teachings of A Course in Miracles. Have you studied A Course in Miracles?
A little bit, yeah.
It's beautiful. It's Jesus just says that all there is love. There's nothing else. You know, that's all there is. Everything else is an illusion. And it's really interesting that everything that's happening to us when in the awakening is, I don't know about you, but I've been left alone, just me and 2 cats. No family, nothing, no one around me whatsoever, except on the phone. Great, beautiful starseed friends on the phone that we keep each other sane. I've got no one except Martin comes here maybe once a week, brings food, and then goes back to his family, his mum and dad. I have had to be able to understand everything. And one of the biggest lessons is attachments. And of course, in Miracles, Jesus says, do not create special relationships, because we are supposed to unconditionally love ourselves and everyone. And we were brought up to believe that our families are going to love us. So, no. So, when you do this family constellation thing, when I was in the therapeutic community, we did one before we left. We definitely did one. Because it was all about all these techniques they brought together, Gestalt and constellations and Buddhism. They never wanted to admit how spiritual they were on the NHS, believe it or not. But it was all there. And I was one of the luckiest people in the world, because I woke up in there and realized that my childhood abuse was not my fault. I woke up in there. I got like 8 months of tough love. And one day the penny dropped, boom. And that was it. If it wasn't for the therapeutic community, I wouldn't be here now. So what I'm saying is, all of these techniques, they were brought together in some way. And this family constellation thing that you're talking about is as you say, you are able to take back your power. And when a human takes back their power, like you are, when you're doing whatever you're doing, all the work you're doing, you're not just sitting there saying, oh God, poor me, I've been stuck here and I just want to go back to my planet, which we do on and off, but we still get on with it. I get on here and I think, Lauren, I feel like shit today. I'm going to spread some love today. I'm moving on TV. And then suddenly I feel good. And you're doing the same, in a roundabout way. I'm trying to say that it's all about us taking responsibility for our lives. You can't ask anybody to fix you anymore. You can't, the beauty of this awakening, some people will see it as a terrible thing. I see it as the best thing that could happen to the human race. You cannot go to a doctor and say, fix me. Can't. That's what this is all about. You have got to go inside and figure out, what am I missing here? What's my body missing? Am I happy? Am I tired? Am I stressed? Am I drinking water? Am I taking vitamin C, D, whatever? You've got to figure it all out yourself. It's like all your support has been taken away from you. You're falling out. I don't know about you, but how do you get on with your family at the moment? Because all the star seeds I know are feeling really alone. Most of them have lost their families in the way that they don't believe the same as they do. I know I have. The whole family in Israel cut me off again because of my beliefs. And so how are you getting on like that? Do you feel that you're getting on okay with your family, or do you feel like, as you do, you're a different species? How's that going for you at the moment?
I'm not very connected with my blood family, other than my mother, of course, because she's one of us. But actually, I find now the tribe is really gathering. So I have what I would call my family around me all the time, and we always get together regardless of what's going on. We'll always go and see each other. We always have gatherings at each other's houses. We'll go out and have a bonfire. We don't really, irrespective of what's going on, that's what we do. And the tribes are gathering now, and that was one thing that was quite common in the channel guidance that was coming through. Is they would say, time now is to gather the tribes, because it's time for us to unite. And this is actually going to be another function of Activist Toolbox as well. So maybe I can go back to that briefly. As well. So yeah, I got into the spiritual toolbox, but after that there will be a few other things, like how to protect yourself online, how to use Tor browsers and a VPN, how to browse online securely, etc. Then there's going to be how to be less reliant on the system, so how to grow your own food, how to live off grid, stuff like this, and then a few other bits. So that's phase one, the activist training camp, and we're then going to introduce a shop, and then phase three, we're going to have some news, which events and stuff, so you can find out when the next protests are on and stuff like this. And then phase 3, once I've raised more capital, we're going to introduce a community functionality, which I'm hoping is going to help unite different activist groups from all around the world so that we can all band together, offer each other skills, and meet people all across the world, and basically unify into one group of activists together, because there's so many wonderful people and organizations popping up all around the world now. People are waking up very, very, very quickly. But we're not necessarily aware of our numbers. I mean, unless you are one of the ones who have been to the massive marches, I don't know if you were there on the 24th of last month. There must have been a million of us descended on London. It was unbelievable. It was one of the best days I've ever had in my life. It was like a huge festival. But unless you're getting involved with that, this is a lonely journey.
Yeah. And I just stop you there. That's exactly what I wanted to talk about, is the intense loneliness. And if you haven't got the skills that we do, if you don't have a dream or a passion, then the loneliness can destroy you. I know that because I went into a lot of depression, and thank God I'm not in it now. But the intense loneliness, and that's where we need something where people, like, for example, as I say, you get the massive marches, which are brilliant, but then you go home and that's it. Or you get 1 hour, 2 hours in a park on a Sunday. I stopped going altogether because I couldn't deal with the heartache of coming back to the emptiness for a whole week. I couldn't deal with it. So I've started going back now because I'm in a different space now. But that's what we need to take care of. Not just our loneliness, but the loneliness of those that are not on the same vibration. How do you do that? How do you do it?
That I'm not sure.
Right. Because I'm thinking of, I want moving on TV on the box. I want moving on TV in every single house where everyone can watch something silly, like a silly happy news, anything, or a tiny little sun meditation, so they know that there's love out there instead of sitting there watching, which I'm not going to mention, but you know what I mean, day in, day out, day in, and hiding behind the couch and thinking that the world's coming to an end. No, it isn't. Your world doesn't have to come to an end. You can get out there, you can stand up, you can say, I'm not having it, and take back your power. You just need to have something on that box. So my dream is to get moving on TV literally in people's houses. That's a big dream. But coming back to what you were saying is, where are you living at the moment? What part of the country are you in?
Maidenhead.
You what?
Maidenhead.
You mean you're...
I'm just on the road from you.
What? How long have you been in Maidenhead?
Only a few weeks.
Okay, I'll be in touch once you come up here.
Yeah, I've been all over.
I'm going to done this interview face to face. Where? What part of Maidenhead?
Not far from the dual carriageway.
Oh my God! All right, see you tomorrow. Oh, I never knew that. That is incredible. Because you used to live in Reading, didn't you, originally?
Yeah.
When we first met.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, by the way, have you heard anything at all from Helen? Helen Greenway, do you ever hear? She opens. I haven't heard from her for years. Anyway, this is becoming a bit. You're kidding me. The thing is, the loneliness, as I say, being on your own. I was on my own for too long, but it made me go inside. It made me discover my singing again, and like running down the road singing, and going into parks and singing Born Free for everyone. You know what I mean? Born Free.
I can certainly imagine you doing something like that, Lauren. Yeah.
Anyway, so I'll talk to you about it when we come off the screen. But that is incredible. I'm so grateful. I can't wait to see you. But coming back now, okay, so let's go on. So the Activist Toolbox is amazing. And you do need something on there for people to know where these gatherings are happening, not just the month.